Do you have a child who's struggling with their Chumash and Gemara learning, their Bible and Talmud studies? Are you a parent who would love to be able to help your child with their Judaic studies learning, but don't have the background, either because you didn't have a day school education, a yeshiva education as a child, or you may have been attending school all the years but never really got Chumash or got Gemara? If that's the case, buckle up and join us for the next 4 weeks. The series is titled, I'll Help You, Help Them. Over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be giving you 12 lessons in beginner Chumash. 8 of those are called Chumash Fundamentals. I'm a very firm believer that in order to master Chumash, it's so much more helpful if you understand how the Hebrew language works. Look, ideally the way to teach Chumash is to learn Hebrew first, like you would studying any text in a foreign language. That's really what it is, unless your kids live in Israel or have a background in Hebrew language. You're really teaching them text in a foreign language. So that's what you ideally should do. But lacking that, I believe that if you can understand how Hebrew language works, which basically is like Lego, there's root words, prefixes, and suffixes. The great news is there aren't too many of the prefix and suffix. So many of the root words, what we call sharashim, are repetitive throughout Chumash. For example, a fellow in Bar Ilan University many years ago did a study and found that, believe it or not, 270 root words comprise 93% of all the words in Chumash. It's really remarkable. So if you learn how language works and how to put complex words together, to construct them and to deconstruct them when you're trying to decode the text, you'll be able to help your children get through it in a much more productive way. My name is Yaakov Horowitz. I've had the privilege of working in the field of Jewish education since 1982, when I started teaching an 8th grade class. There I taught Chumash and Gemara and Talmud. Many of my students came to class very frustrated, having spent 7 years in school and not been able to master Chumash, and especially Gemara. Gemara is in Aramaic. It's much more complicated. So I did fundamentals with them, and then when I started my own yeshiva in 1997, I was determined to produce materials in the school that children can utilize to help them have a Bright Beginnings. That's what the series is called. So we're going to be working off my Bright Beginnings Chumash and Gemara books. Our 2 Bright Beginnings sequential Chumash books were sold over 35,000 copies of them so far, and they're in schools around the world. You don't need to purchase the Chumash books to join the series, because any sheets that you're going to need for it will be displayed on the presentation as we go along. But I really encourage you to take the time, especially now with the school year beginning, to learn it yourself. That's the title of the series. Help you, help them. I really believe that it's doable. Even if your child is struggling, I believe the best way to do it is to go back to doing fundamentals. It's not a lot of fun at the beginning because you're learning fundamentals. Think about a different sport. Think about playing golf or playing basketball. The coaches, if you're taught professionally, they all do fundamentals at the beginning. The kids want to play basketball, but until they learn certain skills and certain tools, they're really going to have a hard time mastering it. So join us, please. Believe it or not, all the classes together over the next 12 days comprise less than 1 hour of instruction. Please join. I hope you find it helpful. I'll be with you throughout the journey. Very, very much looking forward. Look at this list here. This is Hebrew nouns according to frequency of occurrence. Okay, so these 38 nouns occur between 500 and 5,000 times just in Chumash alone. And the list below is between 300 and 500 times. So if you learn the root words and you learn prefix and suffix, you can basically do it on your own. There's a similar list for Hebrew verbs, which also comes across as the same idea. For example, we'll take a sharish of doing Parshas Lech Lecha, and starting from the beginning. The Aleph Mem Resh means to say. That's a sharish. almost all sharashim, all root words, sharashim is plural of sharash, almost all sharashim have 3 letters. There are some exceptions, but that's basically it. And we color coded here so you can see it more clearly, see where the cursor is. So the word amar is to say, vayomer is and he said. So the vav is a prefix that means and, the yud is a prefix that means he. Amar is to say and he said. Same thing. Amarti is I said. The taf yud is a prefix that means I did this action. And lemar is to say. Okay, so these are just 3 examples of how the Lego, so to speak, fits together. Now, if you didn't know this, you would literally have to memorize all these different words when all you basically need to know are the fundamentals. So this is what it looks like, in a more color-coded way. So the amarta, prefix, and you shall say, would be a complex word that has the sharish of aleph mem resh, amar, as its root. Okay, then you have Tomer and Amra, she said. So again, these are examples of how we take a root word and clip on a prefix and suffix. Some of them have multiples, 2 prefixes, for example, like we had Vayomer. Getting accustomed to this knowledge will really help us be able to really master Chumash and become an independent learner. And you'll be surprised at how quickly you'll pick it up if you start learning this way. So here are 6 examples of the word with Amar as a shirish. Okay, Vatomer, and she said, Imri, to say, okay, V'amru, and they said, so on and so forth. In this case, we're looking at a complex word that has a prefix and a suffix. So aleph mem resh means to say. Vav in the beginning means and as a prefix. And ta is you. So v'amarta, and you will say. Now, again, when you translate from Hebrew to English, it doesn't necessarily go in the order of the word. Okay, and you will say, right? You're doing the prefix, suffix, and then the root word. But that's just the way it is. And anytime you basically translate to a different language. Here is a second shorish, Beis Reish Chaf, which means to bless. Here's today's work. Let's go through these 4 complex words and take them apart and be able to work with them more efficiently and be able to understand them. And again, this is the beauty, because there are so few prefixes and suffixes, that there aren't that many of them. Once you learn the mechanics of how those Lego pieces put together, you can really become an independent learner that way. So Vav is and, Aleph is I, Beis Reish Chaf is to bless, V'avarcha, Ve'avarcha, and I will bless. That's what this word means. So we did a color coding system. If you look here, there are color codes for this for children to color, or even yourself, to think about it in those terms. Uveirachtem means and you will bless. Mivarachecha is those who bless you. Follow my cursor, please. And Yivarech is he will bless. For all of these, you basically need to follow this pattern. So Uveirachtem, vav at the beginning, is a prefix. Beis Reish Chaf is the root word, to bless. Tem is plural. Uveirachtem, and you will bless. Mivarachecha, again, look, here's the shorish, Beis Reish Chaf, to bless. Mivarachecha, those who bless you. And Yivarech, Beis Reish Chaf, again, is the shorish, and the yud at the beginning, which means Yivarech, again, he will bless. So again, that's the basic idea. Look for the shorish, the root word, prefix, suffix. Later on, I'm going to be giving you a list of the different prefixes and suffixes, but that's the basic idea. That's the big idea, and it will really allow you to get your hands around learning Chumash in a more efficient, a more enjoyable, and an easier way. These sheets are from a beginner Chumash book that we created. It's a Bright Beginnings Chumash book, and this is color-coded. Again, follow my cursor here. Ve'avarcha, and I will bless. So Beis Reish Chaf is the shorish, which means to bless. A prefix vav means and. A prefix aleph means I. Okay, ve'avarcha, and I will bless. So that's a full word, uveirachtem, and you will bless. Beis Reish Chaf, again, is the same shorish in the middle. So today we're going to learn the exception that not every shorish of 3 letters remains intact when it moves on to become a complex word. Okay, so here, follow my cursor again. Here are some examples. We call it Yona. Yona means a dove. It's an acronym for the letters Yud, Vav, Nun, and Hey. You can see the text on top, some Shorish letters drop from the Shorish when you pull them together. And here are some examples. You have the Shorish Reish Aleph Hey Ra'ah. Ra'isi is I saw. Okay, here's the translation. Ra'isi is I saw. So notice the Hey is not there anymore. It's a Shorish letter that sort of flies away, and like a bird does. That's just the memory tool. So Ra'isi is I saw. Ra'inu is we saw. Nun Vav is plural. Ra'u is they saw. And the same thing for the Shorish Halach. Elech, I will go. Right? It doesn't say a halach. Right? There's a hey missing. Telchi, you will go. And even you have lech lecha. Right? Lech, go. Even without a prefix and a suffix, sometimes that word drops. Now, the reason for the rule really are not that important, certainly right now, but it's just to have that in your mind that not every shorish survives the move to a complex word or even to be placed in a pasuk intact. Sometimes letters are missing. Here are exercises to identify the complex word and the shorish and where the letters dropped. And here is a cumulative shorashim review of what we did so far. We had the shorashim Amar. Amar is to say. This is matching, right? Barech is to bless. Halach is to go or went. And Ra'ah is to see. And here we find the shorish on the left side here. Follow my cursor, Amar. And you have to match it to Vayomer. Barech, bless, is Mivarachecha. Those will bless you. Now, what's important, just in closing today's lesson, it's important to note that basically these are really the only two skills you need to be able to master Chumash. You take this complex word that you find in Chumash, B'varachecha, and identify the shorish, which is Barech, and translate it. Or maybe you could say learn the translation and then find it in a word. But the great news is that once you have these tools, we're going to do the prefix and suffix. There aren't that many of them. Once you do that and you know how to put them in words and pull them out of words, so to speak, to construct and deconstruct those words, you're really off to the races. Here are the nouns that we learned so far. We have Hel, Har, Bayis, Aretz. And the exercise number 1 is to find the translation. So house, we would draw a line to Bayis. Har is mountain, so on and so forth. And the second exercise is to find the words here in black on the left side, where it says Me'artzecha, Har, Ba'ayhel, to match them to the root word. You're going to actually see the various prefix and suffix that are found before and after word. Again, you just look at how few they are, learning them and understanding the Sharshim, you see how the system works and how it can really change the way you learn. We'll give some examples later, but just Hey means the. Beis is in or with. Sometimes we use more than one translation because it can be used in different ways. Okay, so Mem is from. Lamed is to or for. Vav is and. Chaf is like. So just review them again. These are the 6 main prefixes that you're likely to find. And here are examples of how they use. Now, again, we had this in previous lessons, but now that we actually are learning the meaning of the prefixes, it just helps you understand how it fits in this Lego. Okay, so ha'aretz, the land, ha'bayis, the house, ha'ayhel, the tent, Hahar, the mountain. So this is it for now. Look forward to seeing you in lesson 6. Keep reviewing. It really will become part of just the way you do business when you start learning Chumash. Looking forward.